Hello, everyone, and welcome to Spectrum Sessions, the podcast where we platform unfiltered autistic voices and celebrate our differences. I'm Heather from the National Autistic Society Scotland, and today we're here with Sean Logan. Sean, it's great to see you again today. Could you please introduce yourself to anyone who doesn't know who you are?
Hello, I'm Sean Logan. I'm a musician, an entertainer, a public communicator, and various other things from Edinburgh here in Scotland. I was laughing to myself when you said unfiltered voices. I thought, you really want to open that can of worms, huh? I think that should be your unique business focus. That should be the model. Is that you specifically look for people to really go off, on it, so people can study it and have like a big backlog of autistic people, really unfiltered, saying things that would definitely be misinterpreted, I imagine, out of context.
Can you tell us about one of your current special interests or hyperfixations, please?
A current obsession or specific interest? I'm a generalist, me, so I'm kind of float between the same, probably like maybe a lot of autistic people. I kind of just sort of rotate through the same 5 or 4 things, which is like my music, my anthropology, my performing, my puppeteering, as I call it, right? Because see, being on the spectrum, right, you have to rehearse a lot of things, don't you, right? Because your body language, the way that you do your facial expressions and move to people, it's a sort of conscious thought process, at least it is for me most of the time, as opposed to how apparently it is for the neurotypical, where they just react instinctively. Like they just have a connection between the movement and how they feel and what they're thinking, and they move and think at the same time. But for me, there's a massive disconnect between what's going on in my head and what's going on in my body. So the body can be completely still, but at the same time, it's doable. Requires a lot of effort, though, and requires concentration.
Can you talk a bit about what you're currently working on?
Yeah, I am. What I've been working on is my big project. You see, that I'm really happy to be doing. It's certainly a dream come true for me to have all the skills and the support and the resources, which I greatly appreciate, to be putting on music shows, but not just any music shows. Got a real focus in immersive arts, right? Is like one of the names for it, it seems. But what we're talking about is, as technology has improved screens and music videos and animation and what you can do with the blending and all these different art forms, everyone's interested in it, everybody loves it. And so I'm doing my bit with putting together a team of people that are putting on music shows, a mixture of, it's dance music mainly, right? It's electronic. It's things like this. It's played on live instruments with actual keys, which makes fast songs really stressful, but really fun. The idea is, who doesn't love a good narrative? Who doesn't like a good movie, right? We love it watching like big, huge Pixar movies and all this kind of thing. So when I was playing at the Isle of Wight Festival, there was an obvious sort of issue, which was that everyone was packed in like sardines and they were all having to stare at this screen above them, right? Because there's too many people these days. No one can see the stage. And so because people wanted to sort of see, because there was an option of the screens that did it, so everyone's like watching telly, you know what I mean? And so I thought, well, bingo, what this screen is showing is a mixture of sort of music, video visuals sometimes, and footage from the stage. And I have a very big interest in animation, and I have a very big interest in motion and how the use of motion and shape and like gesture, how it then is, if you put it in the context of a human being, of human communication. But your body language, the way that different shapes mean certain things due to connotations, an open body language or closed body language. Or there's and the glorious map, the spectrum, if you will, as of to why these different shapes, where they've came from in nature to mean these different things, and why we instinctually use them to communicate with each other. Very interesting to me. So I like dancing. I like seeing, I like opera, I like greatly exaggerated theatre. See, all this kind of stuff does to me, and that's one of my deep fascinations for sure. That's very, a very old, that served me very, very well interest that I've had in my life. And so the bingo moment is, let's make the music video what's actually happening on stage. Let's tell a narrative, let's tell a story, right? Because what we're able to do with motion capture suits and rendering in real time, we're able to put the performers in suits, put the costumes over them, and they can interact and do in real time. That is then able to be superimposed. That data is able to be taken and then expressed in totally different new ways on the screen. So we're able to tell a story, like a proper like narrative. You not only are we able to, enjoy really good music, have excellent live music performances, and have this great music, but it's very much a show that tells a story, something that I've always wanted to do. So we've been moving ahead on that, but there's a lot to looking at what I do. I now have understood the business model, as it were, but how the actual playing of the music and the making of the music video and the playing it on the projector, getting people in to watch it, is only like 25%. It's a tiny part of how you really need to do this kind of thing, and how this thing is done, and who is already doing these kinds of things in the way in which is opened up a whole new can of worms for me in my life. I now spend 75% of my time, that's what a lot of last year was about for me, learning about business, learning about business acumen, learning about finances, learning about how people, like how, some kind of stuff like, you're hiring a whole bunch of people. I need people to be liable. What I'm trying to get to here is that a bit of advice I have for everybody is to remember with things like the arts, and especially perhaps this is when you see you hear a band on Spotify or whatever you really, really like, and you think, wow, why are they not playing all these big things? That's such great music. I'm personally starting to realize it's got a lot to do with when you're dealing with intangible goods. You don't walk away with something. You don't hold music. You don't eat it. You don't need it either. It's something that you want. That it's 75% business acumen. It's how do you deliver your quality, amazing, world-class service to the people that want it, and that is actually, you know what I mean? Like a big difference and a big learning experience, a big hurdle, something to really get to know. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it makes sense. It sounds like you're doing a lot of interesting work and your shows sound amazing. I'd love to go and see one sometime. I bet it's great.
If
Um,
you Google
oh,
Collide, Collide Sean Logan or Collide Glasgow, you'll be able to see bits of media and articles and so on from that show.
yeah. So
Due to
whoever's watching, you should have a look on the website.
due to the ongoing development of business acumen, music's great, but you need to understand how to. We're basically going through learning about brand, not so much branding, but like how we really need to set up our websites, what it needs to look like, how to really, give people what they want when they come look for us. So it's still going to be a few months or until we have the proper website and the proper this or the proper that. But yeah, you can keep up with the socials if you want. I post nothing. I just don't interact. I don't know why. I'm just like, we should make a really good product and then market it. I've got nothing to say until that. You know what I mean?
At what age did you start playing music, and did it immediately click with you as something that you love to do?
Yeah. When I was 7, I was watching Top of the Pops on the television and I saw a guy playing piano. However, at that age, when I would just scream at you in a monotone voice about something I was interested in, probably dinosaurs, and I wouldn't take a breath or run, wouldn't even stop, and I would just keep going until you just couldn't take it anymore and walked away from me. Right? Like that. Perhaps the listeners of the show will be familiar with this particular part of autism. I understood, though, the emotional sentiment behind his choice of like chords, like of music, right? And so, because he was playing a happy tune, and there was lots of hopeful and joy, but then it was sad, and then it was somber, and then it really took a serious tone, but then it showed that hope again, and that we can figure it out anyway, and it doesn't have to be so bad, and we should be happy what we have anyway, and it's a good, and so, and I completely understood that. And so I turned around to my grandparents, and I'm like, "What was that?" It was amazing. They're like, "Oh, that's a piano." I'm like, totally obsessed, and so they go into the attic and bring me down a dusty old Casio keyboard that they put in the spare room, and we couldn't really pull myself away from it a lot of times. So I would watch the television, I would listen to the music on the television I liked, and I would go through, and I would, by trial and error, sit and work out how to play what I was hearing. It's like trial and error, right? It's like if an if-else statement. If it's not that, it's this, right? There's only 12 notes, so you're kind of like, if I work really, really fast, I could just crush the note. I could crack the code, right? It's done that for years and years and years, which gave me a bit of a different direction of life, because it meant that when I was a late teenager, I was really good at what I could do. Like I could genuinely entertain a mixed crowd of regardless amount of people, and play really good music. So it changed like a lot of my decision making and the trajectory. Not take much of a focus in academia, right? Not to like study music academically, because to me I was already in it. I was like playing here, doing that at this thing. So I was like, why would I ever do that? Like they do the degree. I see them when they come out at night. You know what I mean?
Do you think that music helps you to express yourself?
Of course. Music is an art form that is expression. It is like an auditory expression. And what really makes music mean so much to people, be so enjoyable, be so, such a thing, could live without music, could spiritual. And this, for a lot of people, but that's because it's genuinely one of the most all-encompassing visceral art forms that we humans have at this present point. Because say like we're talking, whether it's your favorite rock song or pop song or it's dance music, right? When you're like hearing this story that you really agree, you resonate with, man, but like you agree with the sentiment of, you enjoy the choice of, melody, the way that you really like this genre of music, you really like its style, its sentiment, its connotation, what it's expressing. It's loud, it hits you in your chest, it causes, whether you're conscious of it or not, like visceral adrenal reactions, right? Really, really, really deep bass tones, like really, chord harmonics that rattle at two different resonances going right through your body. There's, because you're still a mammal, there's this, it means that what music is to us is something that we've evolved with for obviously years and years and years, but one of the most important indulgences in emotion and the enjoyment of emotion, regardless of whether it's sort of happy tone, serious tone, sad tone, who cares? And is a very, very important social ritual, because human beings, despite what we write down, how we've actually acted over the thousands of years to each other, is that there's only certain places in the daily routine of sapiens like us that we meet each other, strangers, and exchange comfortably casual social interaction. And it's not so much when you're at the shop, right? If you're at the shop, you'll speak to someone you knew from school. You'll speak to someone who knows someone from your family. No. But a stranger at the shop, I've got things to buy. There's no, you know what I mean? People act differently in different social conventions for various reasons. But bars, places that people go to listen to music, people that is like the same, you see structurally throughout all of history, right? I want people to think for a second about a music festival. And there's these huge bonfires and people just congregate around them. But because they're like there to be enjoying themselves, they're like, hey, and they speak to each other and things go about and it's lovely and great. And a lot of that comes from the perception and almost like the emotional decision that people are making before they go into an interaction, go into a situation. Music's an extremely important part of all the times of this, people sitting playing in the bars, in the taverns, the inns going all the way back throughout history. And then you see people all sitting, drinking, talking around a campfire at a music festival. It's the sentiment of why they're there. But how many hundreds of thousands of years do you think people have done that?
Yeah, makes sense. You were diagnosed at the age of 4, so quite early in life. Did it take you a while to understand what it meant to be autistic and
No,
come to terms
no,
with
it was
your
rather
diagnosis?
apparent. No, it was very apparent from a very young age. Yes, and people would certainly remind me rather often. Yes, exactly what was wrong with me. Aye, of course.
And did you find that you would mask when you were younger to fit in with your peers? And do you find
No, no. I became the world's problem. What? Like, no. I kind of didn't even know that that was a requirement. And it wasn't until I went to primary school and then everyone started bullying me, and I was like, well, I'll just hit everyone instead. Like, that was the decision for like a 5-year-old. So I didn't really get masking. Although, here's the funny thing is that out of school, as I went from like 5 through to 7, I actually made loads of friends. I had lots of friends. I had a really, really good childhood and I had a really good adolescence as well. And and it was funny because I think a lot of that was because I didn't have to mask. Because in a classroom I'm disruptive because I'm like, why? You know what I mean? I think this would be a better idea. Like, that's not how what you can deal with when you're trying to run a class. But outside of the classroom, I was great. I was like, why don't we do this? Oh, wouldn't that be fun? You know what I mean? All of a sudden, that character traits like that neurology is like actually good. It's fine, but it's contextual, right? you know it's like you're not going to be like, oh, I'll bring my acoustic guitar to the wake after the funeral, I'm sure that'll really cheer everyone up. Like, I'll play Wonderwall for them, like, a bit of self-awareness.
yes, it's different. Usually a lot of the people we have on have masked throughout their lives, so it's different having someone on who's not relied on
Later
masking
in
so
my
much.
life, yeah, you said
Mhm.
earlier in my life. But
Yeah.
later in my life, masking became, it's an art form, isn't it? Like, oh, it's an art form. Like, I'm
Mhm.
an entertainer, right? But really, when I see myself on like, there's various reasons, but one of the I've realized as I've gotten older, right, and I've become much more self-aware, and I look back at myself. There's times where I watch myself do something on stage, and I'm like, yeah, that was really normal. Yeah, yeah, the way that I like rolled my shoulder back there and like and like smiled and blinked at the right sort of cadence and didn't stare at that person's shoe for too long. That was really good. Look at that. You got all these people thinking you've got a coat like that. You're like them. That you're not. You know what I mean? I'm like, not. I'm like watching this, being like, yes, they'll never realize that I'm such a space alien. Because I realize now, but don't you think that's quite evolutionary, right? It's evolutionary, like that is a behavior. It's a pattern of behavior that an autistic person would have a lot of. It'd be a path of least resistance that they would probably have a deep interest in, even subconsciously, that they can help do something that's a survival strategy. Because although the world is a lot better now, throughout all the history, people showing people that you don't know what's going on for a second, or that you're like having a weird moment, or like you're suddenly like some sort of reptilian with no body language, and you're just like, like, could be a really bad idea. Could like be really dangerous, right? Yeah, masking is why I got is being a massive monkey on my back, because I learned quite early on that masking was actually the source of a lot most like a lot of my problems, because what was happening was I understood that to wear masks is to like be untruthful and to lie, right? And as an autistic person, I deal with extremes, and it's like it's normal for me, but I understand that like it's not. Having spoken to other people, I understand that what I experience is different from theirs, which is to me. There's a lot of the time where I don't have a sort of mixed petri dish of emotion, right? But it's like there's a little bit of content, but there's a bit of disgust and a little of anger, but it's all kind of mixed. It's like it goes really, really quickly, which is hence the blank, and then figure out what you're going to do. Like, okay, it's over, and then act. But I feel like really extreme intensities of emotion that I have to hide, but it's because it's like a logic gate. It's like an if or else statement, but it's running really quickly. So it's like, complete anger, complete disgust. Oh, that's okay. Contentness, happiness, happiness, disgust again, happiness, disgust again, happiness. You know what I mean? There's not so much like this easy blend. It's like a machine running like really, really. Anyway, my whole point I was trying to get at there is that masks are not true, right? That really tortured me. That was the sort of whole point, right? It's a real torture for me. Seeing, having to like not get answers to my questions, not understand how the world works, but like put on this, this body language and this facial expression, go, okay, and just, that obviously like deeply unsettling because my brain was always running at 100,000 miles an hour and gained its like, its enjoyment spikes from like, hey, does anyone know where I can learn how to do this? Oh, do you know how to put on good music shows? How can I meet somebody that knows about how that goes, like organizes that thing? How does anyone know anyone that does this, plays this, knows what that was? It's this really unhealthy disconnect between trying to do things through a syntax that other people have because they can't see the way that you can see a reality. You know the way that when you try to get through to customer services, these days, you run into a robot. If you have problems with your broadband, press 1. If you have problems with your phone, press 2. But no matter what you try and do, some places you can't even get through at all. You will try and keep you speaking to a robot to deal with your problem for as long as possible. To me, that robot answering your phone call, this fatally, of a non-human connection, is how I felt and feel when I have to mask and interact with people. Because it's, you know what I mean? Not only is it disingenuine, but it's genuinely not useful. I'm not able to get through to an actual person at your office. You know what I mean? I'm dealing with this.
Yeah, that makes
Yeah.
sense. It's a nice analogy for masking, definitely.
Balance. Oh, it's all about
Yeah.
balance.
If you could go back in time and give your younger self some advice, what would it be?
I'd point at him and be like, it's all about balance. Balance. Because it is when the example that I would use is something that's been a problem for me is because of my hyper focus, I neglect that I am a living creature that requires water and sunlight and sustenance, right? If I'm really working. So when I'm working on my music, right? I stand here and I play my synths and stuff, and I stand here and I work. And it can go on. I don't realize, but it goes on for like 3 hours, right? And and I'm like, I've got all these pains in my body. I'm dying. Oh, I need to phone the NHS. Oh, and actually, it's because you've not eaten anything, you haven't taken a drink, and you've been standing for 3 hours in a similar position, going with your hands, right? That's why. And I've learned that hard lesson for a decade or more. But I still do it. And a lot of that is like it's neurology, it's routine and it's discipline. But it's because I'm like it's all about balance. You're doing all the right things, but if you do one too much than the other, it loses balance instead of being stable. And
Yeah.
it's a lot about managing yourself. Maybe it's that thing, to go back to the music. It's 75% business acumen, 25% amazing music. So it's got to be 75% discipline and organization. Maybe
Yeah.
that's too much. Maybe it's not balanced. See, I don't know yet. I'm working my way through reading my self-help books, like far too many of them.
Very relatable. I did the exact same thing with hyper focusing on something for like 4 hours, and then you'll just suddenly realize I've not drank anything today, nor have I eaten anything, and I've been sitting like with my knees up in a really uncomfortable position and not even noticed. And then I'll be trying to walk around, and I'll be like, my feet will be numb and stuff like that. So yeah, I think it's something that a lot of autistic people deal with for sure. In 2021, a BAFTA winning documentary called Harmonic Spectrum was filmed about your music. How did the documentary come about in the first place, and how did it feel to share your story?
I was playing at the Leith Theatre. I found Anthony. I was looking for a drummer to do this project. I went out. I found one when the Leith Theatre rehearsing for this show, and then there's these great guys there that make documentaries, work in various things, and they were like, "Wow!" I spoke to them. They really got on. They really liked what we did. They went away. They came back. They were like, "Can we film you?" And we were like, "Yeah." And then they went away. They came back, and they were like, "Wow, people want to make this documentary." And we were like, "Sure," and we did it. I say it like that, but I've always had a big, as someone who's an entertainer, as someone who studies performance and comedy and various aspects of performance. I'd done a lot of, this was an opportunity for me because I really wanted to work with somebody to make a film that had and explore sort of, sentiments that we were feeling at the time that had a lot to do with being on the spectrum, what that means, what the difficulties are, what are the advantages, how the world works, how do we operate within it. And they like Will and Austin are just so excellent at capturing the truth, but then packaging it to people where they can say, you can say like 40 minutes in like 40 seconds, you know what I mean? It's a skill. It's a really great skill. And I was admired people that are able to do that. And so when I met them, I was like, yes, let's do this. And it was great.
Yeah, it was a great documentary. I definitely recommend anyone watching to have a look at it. It's quite short, so it doesn't take too long to watch, but it's fantastic. In the documentary, you also talked about how you were able to understand yourself better after starting to play the piano. Can you talk a bit more about how that works?
If you if you were to sit down and try and do a painting and you just went and then threw your paintbrush away, right, you would probably realize that you're probably in a bad mood, right? But do you realize the severity of your bad mood before and up until the point of paintbrush? Do you know it are you aware of it to the point where you won't pick up the paintbrush at all because you know that you'll sit down and just mess up the painting because you're not able to focus and you feel bad? That kind of step by step back, like a game of chess, right? Or decision making, like if I do this, like where does that lead? Where does that go? So music, especially for me, piano is very tactile, right? Its name means like loud, quiet. So just by the mood that you're really in, I don't have to press really hard and if I'm calm and relaxed, right? Because it's an instrument that is able to denote an emotional sentiment. But I toned it because of how it's set up. It's evocative. It reflects very well, and translates the mood of what the person's trying to convey with what they're playing. And so the piano's a really good one because I feel that with so many notes, there's so many things going on, you can get a real refined version of throwing your paintbrush away. You can get a real refined version of exploring how you're feeling because the piano makes that process of exploration easier. I could go on about this, but it's kind of art. What I'm talking about is a lot to do with art. Like it's a lot of art therapy sort of motifs, I imagine, that are to do with expressing your expressing first and then analyzing the expression and what it means to you, and it's sort of this in the moment Rorschach test. And to me, because I play it, it's music's played in front of me, it's out with people, but I like playing with other musicians live without knowing exactly what's going on or what's happening. And a lot of that comes from being able to indulge in this sort of in the moment Rorschach test of like, oh, how did that? So what did that mean to the narrative? Like, where did that go in the story of, you know what I mean? You're listening to how you felt about everything you just listened to, and then think about the direction you would want that story to go in next, right? Which I feel is like, it's cool. It has metaphorical application to all of life, right? It's like, where do I want to go now? What am I going to do? What am I going to eat for lunch? What am I going to do today? It's a great thing it's hopefully on your mind all the time to constantly be like, what would be the best thing for me? What do I think we would enjoy the most? But when you're playing with other people, you're playing live, it's not just what you enjoy, although that is a big aspect of it, you wouldn't be doing it. But you're also playing an audience that enjoy what you enjoy. So it's all your thing. And it's great, It's a very, very excellent thing.
Yeah, I think the paintbrush is a great way to demonstrate that. I think a lot of autistic people have the same sort of thing where a lot of us maybe struggle to understand what exact emotions we're feeling. There's something called alexithymia, which a lot of autistic people have, and it's like you might know that you're not feeling good or that you're maybe sort of feeling down or tired, but you won't know whether it's because you're annoyed or if you're angry or if you're just sad because of something that's happened. And it might take you a while to figure out why you're feeling a certain way. So I think that way of music bringing that emotion out, you sit down at the piano and then you play something, and if it's sad, then you realize, oh, I'm not feeling very good today. That makes a lot of sense.
Well said. It makes me think about something that I feel that it's been on my mind a lot because it was the wisdom of it really hit home recently, and I thought I would impart it. This might be useful, which is the metaphor is in life you have to be both like dog master and squeaky ball. You can achieve a lot of stuff, but it really comes down to being able to organize and motivate yourself, kind of like a donkey and a carrot on a stick, right? To go through the motions and take the steps one foot after the other to move towards the direction that you would like to go in, that you would like to see, the things you'd like to do, what do you want, And that's been really important for me because, that's been really important for me. And it's realizing that like discipline, like doing things in the right kind of way, in the right kind of order, having the right kind of priorities really is the difference to your whole mode of life. And that like I want people to, it's not that you're stupid, it's not that you're broken, it's not that you're da 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 da. I feel that I guess I'm still feeling like what you said about like if you were speaking to your younger self. Like I think I've got that running through my mind really hard, and the idea is that that really it's hard, I guess, right? Because when you're on the spectrum, you can't say to other people, "Hey, can you organize me?" Like you're like, "No, you're a grown ass human being." Like no, but you try your best, right? And which I guess is a lot of the whole crux of their existence for me. But yeah, it's all you really need to like be able to see that your career and your passions and your drive to do or your obsessive interest has to remain a particular thing of the pie chart, because it does really mess you up as time goes on if you don't go through a healthy routine, if you sit on the computer all the time, if you don't go outside and make a routine of like what, like, doing activity of any description, if you don't eat well, if you don't da. But when you're younger, right, it's like you're invincible, and you are invincible. You can stay up all night. You can, you know what I mean? You can do crazy stuff to yourself. It's not like that. No. Like once you get past the age of 26, you stop bouncing when you fall over and you start like shattering, right? And there's no way of preparing you because you don't know. There's no way for you to know until it comes to you, and then you're like, I can, this is less, and so something I have to manage. Like to remain healthy, I now have to work. I can't stay up all night. I can't just eat that. I can't just stand and play this or sit at the computer for all that time. Like I'll die. You know what I mean? And that's the big thing in autistic people. It's like you need to look after yourself. Well, and
Mhm.
try your best and ask help. Like people will want to help you that are in your life, but you need to figure out how to ask them for what you need. You know,
Yeah.
'cause that's a big part of it. That's a big part. It paralyzes people from helping you a lot of the time. Is it's difficult to articulate exactly what it is that you have difficulty with and need support from. And I
Mhm.
always didn't want to ask for help. It's always been like a trial by fire for me, being like, no, I have enough books to sit and relentlessly sweat and figure this out. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I suppose it goes back to what you've been talking about balance being the most important thing. It is so important to make sure that you've got balance in your life, and it can be so easy to just hyper focus on a special interest, and that's all you do, and you don't try and go out and try different things and stuff. But it is important to try and do that. You also mentioned in the documentary that there's not much difference for you between playing music on your own and playing in front of people. So that's really interesting to me because you'd think it would be more difficult playing in front of people because you'd be nervous. Do you not have those nerves on stage?
You know, that's actually a huge problem because it's demotivated me from going out and playing more often and putting on shows and stuff because I've got this, I have a, it's to do with, how to describe this? I would prefer to wait until I'm 35 and deliver like this masterful, like world class product that I will forever be able to like feel like I've honored the spirit of like, you know, I would prefer to wait and not and work towards that than like be constantly like, oh, I should be doing this. I could have more of my life if I do that right now. I could do that. I'm like, I have this very clear, obvious, I have this very clear image, this algorithm. I understand it, and I understand what I do. I understand my industry. I understand how everything works, and so I'm like trying to just trying to get along. Like I'm just trying to get along, trying to get to the bit where I want to go in a way that I think is best for everyone. As I was saying, like all of last year has been, and the year before. It's just been all about working on myself as opposed to my music. You know what I mean? Sort of like done one thing instead of the other, no balance, right? Good at music, not so much that, yeah, knowing yourself and improving yourself and having a handle on yourself so you're being who you want to be, moving where you want to be going. Don't
Yeah.
take yourself too seriously. That's a good bit of advice for everyone. Why do you think I'm standing
Mhm.
here and acting a dinosaur? Jump, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's another good bit of advice for everybody. Is I don't know, like it is to go out and do the thing and that is good. But the way I'm doing, what's brought me things in my life is that I haven't went out and done that. I've stayed in and worked on it. So when I do things, it's always led to really big stuff. That makes sense.
Yes,
So
definitely.
it's hard because there's good advice in both aspects of it. I would say
Can you tell us about some of the main challenges you experience in your day-to-day life just being autistic?
being human, being human. The same as everybody else, just my flavor. Here's the thing, though, right? When I was 23, 24, I would say to myself, "Oh, this is really bad. Oh, this isn't like there's other better things elsewhere. I should take a bigger chance, and I should move to this thing, or I should make this, just do these kind of shows and da. And I never done any of it, and I felt that, like when I was younger. Sorry, and then in those later years, I'm like, oh, as I started sort of creeping into getting the life that I want, I started thinking to myself, oh yeah, that was because that was the world's problem. that was because the world is bad and people are bad, and always expecting like the worst. And that I realized then that like, and the realization coming out of that was, in fact, the world is how it is. It's none of my business, right? It's about how I get on. It's about what I'm doing, where I'm going, what my interaction of it is. To to not have like, oh, I have a problem. Oh, it's a problem for me. Yeah, it was. But if I didn't have like a mountain of self-help books, Paul Ekman, my new micro expressions, the face, you know what I mean, facial communication, body language books. If I didn't sit and like learn how to read people, understand what's going on, and then act, and it would be a very, very difficult time, right? But I don't know. For me, it was like, oh, hang on. What do you mean I'm not happy about where I live? You know what? I could probably get this painted. I could probably get a new floor. And in fact, why don't I do that? Oh, I could just get one of these. Oh, hang on a second. I could just. And when I started realizing that you can deal with your own problems. Not so much deal with your own problems, but it's if you just put one foot in front of the other, you'll be surprised how much you can just sort, get things to where you want them to be. Which sounds vague, I know, but it's about the emotion before the action instead of the action instead of the emotion. So the general principle, right, is that to think, if I do this, if I play on this stage in this place in this show, then I'll be happy. Then I'll have the people around me I want. I'll know the things I want to know. I'll have the abilities. I'll have this wealth. I'll have this enjoyment. And this richness to my life. But then what happens is, I'm doing that show. And I'm like, yeah, and I'm like gritting my teeth. I'm like sweating. I'm like trying to like push this thing through. It's not comfortable to watch, let alone listen to, even though it's the exact same notes, in my opinion. And the idea is that if I'm already like, oh, this sounds great, this is really good, I enjoy playing here. Oh, and when I am, the music that I write and the way that I perform it, the sentiment caught is truly thousands of margins better. And if to pull it into more everyday life that's not music, if I'm in a good mood and I'm like I'm in a good mood, it means that that thing about like force a smile on your face, right? I think it almost meditative, like meditative on concepts. You're meditating on happiness, this feeling where you want to be. But the idea is that it's that you choose your perception, right? You choose your sort of it's that thing of not expecting the worst, treating things in bad faith. Although you need to obviously protect yourself in life, always having a positive perspective on things is very, like, undeniably one of the most powerful things that I have experienced, because it helped me with all my autistic problems. It's motivated me to pick up a book and learn, go meet people, go places, do things, and now be in my glorious music laboratory that I've wanted since I was a kid, making this crazy giant robot space dance music thing. So I'm in.
Yeah, it's great that you've managed to achieve that and you're where you wanted to be. That's incredible. Do you find that being autistic helps you with your music? And if so, how does it help you?
No one's perfect, and everybody's music is unique to them. So, into that, I would say that we're all telling the same kind of story, but it's all from like our unique perspective, our genre, our flavor, our way of painting that canvas. Yeah, people have all kinds of problems from all different kinds of perspectives. There's so many different, everyone's living their own unique life. The way that they boil everything down and how it's been for them and how they feel about all this stuff is like so unique. So it's like, who are you? What do you want to listen to? Like, what are you looking for? What did it do?
You've achieved a lot in your musical career so far. Can you tell us about some of your most meaningful successes?
Most meaningful successes. Um, don't know. It's contextual, right? It's contextual because for me, although I've played bigger stages and things that are more in buildings, for me, I don't know. I really like going to the Isle of Wight. I think the Isle of Wight's excellent. I think it's a lovely place. It's filled with absolutely lovely people, and I deeply enjoyed the festival and enjoy all of the festivals that they do around the year, such as the Cows Festival. And for me, it's when I get to go places that I've never been before. When I get to travel and play my music and speak to people and interact with people that are not, that are new to me, right? And not to say that every British person isn't new to me, or every person in Edinburgh isn't new to me, or every, you know what I mean? It's just that, like, I don't have a real course for adventure. So to me, playing and getting to do little things in really bizarre places is a lot of my greatest successes personally.
That's lovely. It's great that you can go and travel and meet people and stuff through your work and through your music and connect with people. Did you ever feel like being autistic would hold you back from achieving your success in music?
Yes, but also then no, and also then realize, like, oh wait, this is something that's actually an advantage because it's not. I feel a lot of the pitfalls about being a musician aren't about standing on the stage playing the song and being fit and healthy for that. It's about everything that happens off of the stage. It's to do with your work times, everyone else's playtime, and that you've got to, organize yourself and your emotions and your da da da. But you see a different sort of mode of what people do on a daily basis. I feel that other people and other professions don't, and I feel this about security as well. I feel like door staff, people who work in the security industry, they see people at their best and at their worst in a way that I don't think. I mean, you get screamed at down the phone, and there's all these jobs that really suck to work in customer service. Getting screamed at and stuff. But by and large, I feel that in the music world, it's different because it's one of the oldest cultures, the arts, that accepts eccentricity and absolute mentalness that eventually turns out to be brilliance. Like, because they're one of the, unlike short, like, but I don't know. That's a whole can of worms to open, because you're talking about, like, the autistic guy that built the boats would have been the one that basically built the entire navy that his country used to conquer those people, or this, think all the different times that autistic people have had massive impact on the world with inventions and with all of the successes, right? So yeah, maybe that's a big can of worms to open. So I guess we'll leave it with there.
No, it's great that sort of, although you used to think it would hold you back, now you think of it as something that's positive and it's helping you with your music, which is lovely to see.
It helps me with my
Um,
music, but it doesn't help me with my day-to-day life. Like,
yeah.
do you guys think, like, really? I mean, I love the synthesizers. I love the big giant sound system stacks. I love all my drums and my machines and all of my good stuff and my piano, right? But if you took it all away and just, like, dumped me in the middle of the woods to just build a log cabin and hunt and farm and live in a very, I would be just as happy. I would be entirely just as happy, and I wouldn't be anywhere. I would feel purer about what I was stressed about. That makes sense. Like, I would die with more of, like, oh yeah, okay, that was a life well lived, as
Hmm.
opposed to,
Yeah.
oh, I'm going to die because I had to sit in a chair for 7 hours and read something for ages, and I got bored and
Mhm.
ate cupcakes in the middle, and maybe that was shaved days off of my life. Like, you know what I mean? Nah.
Yeah. What are your goals for the future?
Oh, play the Las Vegas Sphere is definitely a one, because the venue's just perfect. All of the art form of the people I work with and that moving towards making is a perfect fit for a full dome 360, like a screen covering in all angles. is just perfect because you're like watching a movie, right? But it's so not so much a movie as it is like a giant bunch of props and characters and setting and all this stuff, and it's moving. You're like in it, watching it, but it's also it's a music concert. You know what I mean? It's like it's dance music, so it's great. Just trying to take music videos to the absolute next level, and the Sphere is like perfect for that. But I mean, lots of things running. Based as I was mentioning to before, business acumen and learning that side of things has actually been a huge, huge focus. It's been a lot of what has needed to happen to understand how to do what I'm now doing, where I'm going, and so writing for grants and getting advice off of business mentors and things is a huge, huge part of time spent, but also it's an important part of where we're going, basically. And so, yeah, it's not
Sounds
glamorous. It's not glamorous. Oh, I'm gonna play on this big show here. Yeah, I'm gonna do the Ross Bandstand again, but this time I'm gonna cover it in laser pens. Like, no, I have to like sit and read for ages. That's the reality. Is like, oh, I now have to basically sit like a crash uni course. I've done like good, do television shows, play at this big concert hall. It was good. It's good, but at the same time. Now I
yeah.
have to kind of sit down and be like, "Oh, right, how's this going to happen? How do I've got my public liability insurance, but there's more. You know what I mean? It's not just.
hmm Sounds like it'd be incredible if you get to go to that venue someday. So good luck with it. What's something that people would be surprised to know about you?
I don't know what people know about me on base to be able to make that decision. You know what I mean? I don't know what people. I don't care. I really don't care because like people judge you on how you're dressed. Like, do you know how funny that is to me? Do you like, and that people react to body language cues like slouching, like posturing. The people have like this automatic network on how they react to social stimuli. So I laugh my ass off because it's like walk around in like a dinosaur jumper and cottons, right? And then put on a suit and comb your hair different, right? Put on the blazer, go, oh, all of a sudden everyone's very nice to you. Everyone approach you very, very differently. The abstraction, it's why I keep mentioning anthropology, right? The abstraction, the level of self-awareness, of like what is driving your decision makings as an individual. Why are you who you are right now? Is such a huge thing that I really wish maybe yeah. So it's like a weird conversation to try and start with somebody. Have you ever tried to be more self-aware? Like, yeah, great. But to me, it's something that I really wish is people would chat about. Not only that, I think it would make people friendlier and more amenable to each other. But yeah,
What does being autistic mean to you?
it means that I've got a neural. What do you mean? It means that I've got. Well, there's diagnosis right here. You see, it's explained in quite a strong detail that I'm not very good at a couple of things. Can be very, very good at this here. Yes, oh, yeah, it's the best. Yes, but this here is yes, that's how it is. It means that the process of evolution is nature, and its glorious radiation and mutation throws out all these different expressions of genes and of ways of being built, thinking, doing, throws it out. It's indiscriminate. It's totally indiscriminate. Bam! It throws things out like fire. It doesn't go, oh no, Susan was such a good person at that dinner picking up his. No, I'll go round her. She was a very nice person. Electricity doesn't care if you donate to Oxfam. You know what I mean? If you'll get burnt. Like, I don't know. What I'm trying to say is that it's a neural. It's a neurological expression, right? Of a different mode of thinking, taking in information from the world. But at the same time, it's not that. I don't think it's that different than neurotypicals. And like, damn, can I put myself in a neurotypical shoes these days? Like, I've always been empathetic, but that was torturous when I wasn't able to actually communicate with people properly. It's And then once I did, it was a massive relief of like, I care about people, people care about me. Life is good, you know.
Great. Thank you, Sean. It's been so great to talk to you today. Thank you so much for coming on.
Very welcome.